Peace, fam. It's your brother Cool. Today's video, going in on some more terms of the legal dictionary. So, let's get right into it. Today's subject is going to be about treaties. You know what I'm saying? Um, I don't think we really give treaties their respect like they need to. I mean, after all, our ancestors are the one who engaged into these treaties or contracts. You know what I'm saying? So, let's look up what treaty is legally. Treaty, a formal agreement. What's treaty here? Okay. So, a treaty is a formal agreement between two or more nations. What is a treaty? A treaty is an agreement, a formal agreement between two or more nations on matter of international concern, not matters of domestic concern, matters of international concern. Treaties of the United States are negotiated by the President and ratified by a two-thirds vote of the Senate. They are part of federal law and thus supersede any contrary state law. Did y'all peep that? I'm going to read that part again just to make sure it sinks in. Okay? The President, treaties of the United States are negotiated by the President and ratified by a two-thirds vote of the Senate. They are part of federal law and thus supersede any. It didn't say it supersedes some. Treaties supersede any. Any. They supersede any state law, on the contrary. So that means if there's a treaty in place between the indigenous peoples and the United States, that means that all of the corporate states or franchises of the United States are also involved in that treaty. That would be like here, for instance, Washington Republic, right? Because Article 4, Section 4 guarantees that all states in the United States are guaranteed, not if they want to, if they choose to, they can be a republic or a democracy. Nah, guaranteed a republic form of government. So, speaking from a republic form of government, treaties are the law of the land. Those are what our ancestors created, treaties. So, I understand the United States Constitution, the Constitution of the Republic, your own constitution of your own individual body politic, republic or civics organization. You know what I'm saying? To autonomously self-govern yourselves. That's fine. But we can't drift from treaties. Treaties are the law of the land. They are the law of the land. Okay? And if we as indigenous peoples don't recognize that those are our treaties, then guess what? We just look at them like, oh, that's cool. Look at this, the Articles of Confederation. Hey man, look at what the Indians did. You know what I'm saying? Speaking from a third, like from an outside perspective. We need to put ourselves in that. That was us. You know what I'm saying? The same cells and DNA that's constructing me, those same cells and DNA were present during those times where those contracts or treaties, right, were being signed between the indigenous peoples and the Europeans. Or I should say the Americans and the Europeans. Which you could look up any olden dictionary, all right, 1836 Webster's. You know what I'm saying? You look up American, it'll tell you the various copper-colored peoples. If you don't know what copper is, look up a penny. All right, so people who are, if you can take a penny and put it into your skin, and you can see a relevancy between that penny and your complexion, guess what? You're American. Okay? And Americans are of African descent. So let's not get that shit twisted. But that doesn't mean you go around calling yourself an African American. Okay? That's two jurisdictions. Two. You can't be in two places at once. You can't say you a citizen of Africa, but then you American. It's one or the other. Okay, and even if you go to Africa, the people in Africa don't call themselves Africans. They refer to themselves specifically about what nation and what tribe they come from. See, we say Africa to generalize shit. Law is very specific. You can't, when it comes to law, you can't generalize things. Okay, they can't be generalized. You can't just say black people or Africans. You know why? Because if you go to Africa, there's mad nations in Africa. About 52 of them, if I'm not mistaken. You got Senegal, you got Tanzania, just to name a few. You got fucking India, Saudi Arabia. All those things are in Africa. You got Jerusalem, that's in Africa. You understand what I'm saying? So Africa is too broad, because when we talk to people from Africa, I mean, I can speak for myself. When I meet people directly from the motherland of Africa, they don't tell me they're African. They tell me where they're exactly from. If I meet someone from Senegal, guess what they're going to tell me? They're going to tell me they're Senegalese. If I meet someone from Nigeria, they're going to tell me they're Nigerian. They don't need to say I'm African. African is too vague. Okay? You got to be specific. Law is specific. Who the fuck are you? Where the fuck do you come from? Specifically. I shouldn't have to, put a search on to try to figure out where you're from. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, law is very specific. It's not general at all. It's not general. It's not a general thing. And I'm going to tell you how it's not a general thing. Even if you break it down into spirituality, right? When you're speaking about the creator or the life force that generates or breathes life into all living things here in this dimension, or all living things in the universe or the galaxies, period, okay? Damn, I just lost my train of thought, man. You see how quick that bong. It'll come back to me, though. And I don't mind messing up because it's just a natural state of myself. Well, to let that come back to me. Anyway, let's just move on forward. Oh, that's where I was going. Treaties, okay? So we got to enforce our treaties. We're the original peoples on the land. You know what I'm saying? So there are treaties. I already read you what treaties are. They supersede any state law. So any state law that's talking about they have more power, or people like to say the federal, states supersede federal. Now when it comes to treaty, because treaties are federal, the states themselves were created off of the treaties. If those treaties don't exist, those states cannot be created. Those states cannot perform or do business here on our land, which they're all corporations. And I'm sorry for that mind fart a few moments ago. Hopefully that thought comes back to me, but I'll be having so many thoughts in my brain that sometimes shit just come and go. And if I take too long to get it out, so it's all right, it'll come back, right? Everything's a spiral. So let's look at transaction of business, all right? Any activity of a corporation within any activity of a particular let's read that one more time. Any activity of a corporation within a particular state. When you're reading legal documents, you'll see a lot of things that say within or without. Anytime you say within a state, what that statement is saying within is referring to jurisdiction. So when it says within the state, so let's say if I didn't know any better and I was walking around saying that I'm black, I'm African American, you know what I'm saying, or I'm other, everything else besides a human being or a national, you know what I'm saying, I wouldn't know any better, so I would transact business here as a resident of Washington State. I am not a resident of Washington State. Washington State is a federal corporation. Washington State is a federal corporation that falls under the jurisdiction of the District of Columbia. Where's the District of Columbia? It's in Washington, D.C. Washington, District of Columbia. That's why it's called D.C. That's where the seat of government lies. So all of these corporate fictions, right? The United States doesn't have any power outside of D.C. So if you don't live in D.C., guess what? You're volunteering to get your ass whooped by the United States by contracting blindly and foolishly. Right? Because ignorance of the law is no excuse. So just because you don't know, don't mean they're going to be like, oh, well, he didn't know, so let's just cut him some slack. You know what? You don't have to make a payment today since you didn't since you really didn't know that you are the indigenous peoples of the land, and and that you're not black or you're not a color, that you actually have heritage and history tied here, and that everything that we've constructed is actually off the backs and the riches of your ancestors. So yeah, by all means, you know what I'm saying? But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that. If you figure that out, cool. But I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not going to tell you this is your land. I'm not going to tell you that this is your gift from the Creator. I'm not going to tell you that you have treaties in place that you're supposed to be enforcing, but you're not, because you think